Hi, my name is Benjamin Goey, and I'm a consultant at Data-Dimensional, and what we're going to go over today is some Pentaho analysis stuff, which is basically how to restrict data within a OLAP cube inside of the Pentaho suite. And what I'm running here is Pentaho 3.7, the Business Intelligence suite, and I'm running on top of Windows 7 x64, so it's a 64-bit operating system. So one of the more trickier things I've noticed with, especially if you haven't done it in a few versions, is getting Mondrian set up for security. So one thing to say right off the bat is that the security is only role-based. So you have to turn that button on, or that switch rather, and you have to also make sure that your users go to the appropriate roles, because you can't do it role to role. So I'll show you an example of that, but later in the video. But let's go ahead and try to get this installed or configured correctly. So if you're running Pentaho, you want to go to your root directory. If you have Enterprise Edition, and you use the graphic install, you can go to Program Files, just like I am here. And since I'm running the 64-bit edition, it's right in the main Program Files directory. But if you're using 32-bit, you would obviously go to the Program Files x86. But the bottom line is just to get to your main directory, right? So this is my root Pentaho directory. And the next thing I'm going to go is server. So nearly all Pentaho installations, starting at the Pentaho root, are going to be structured this way, or a lot of them, very similar. And then you're going to go to the BI server, then you're going to go to Pentaho Solutions, and then you're going to go to System. And then the next thing we're going to look for is the Pentaho Objects Spring. Pentaho Object Spring. So if you double click on this, it's taking me into my XML editor, which I'm using Dreamweaver, but you certainly can use whatever you'd like. Any text editor will do. Okay. So it's nice using some kind of XML editor like this, because then it can tell you when you're doing something funky when you're editing this. Like if you haven't closed a tag or something like that. But if you go down to about line 100 or so, you'll see a whole bunch of commented out stuff. And the thing that we're going to concentrate on is the Mondrian user role mapper. Right? There's some other ones that use where you can define what the value is, or use session variables and stuff like that. But what we're going to do is just concentrate on this. So we're going to take out the commented stuff here. Right, goodbye commented stuff, and then you just save the document, right? And everything looks okay, like all the other beans aren't affected. All your XML looks good. So basically, we just remove the uncommented information out. Now, what you're going to do is reset your Pentaho instance. So if you're running Windows, what you would do is go into the main BI server CE or EE, depending on what you're using. And you would just go to stop.pentaho.bat, and then once the server is completely shut down, you go to start. Or you would use your services. You'd stop and start your services if you have services set up. And that is how you would do that. So go ahead and do that now, and wait till your machine reboots and all that. And of course, I'll skip all that out so you don't have to see it in the video. Okay, we're back, and I'm assuming your server's up and running fantastically. I've already logged in with Joe password, which is the administrator on a default, Pentaho instance. They set up some default users and things like that. So that's where you want to be, because we're going to use Joe as our litmus. And we're going to modify one of the cubes that it ships with the sample data.
And you'll see here if I go to New Analyzer Report, we're going to be looking at the one that ships with a key by default, which is steel wheels. There are no restrictions on this whatsoever. And, you'll see, I can do whatever I want. Drag it over, etc. And we're gonna keep Joe as our main administrator. What we're gonna do is so he can still access everything. What we're gonna do is set up a dummy user and role. So if we go to the Enterprise console or your Administration console if you're using Community Edition, you would just go in here and you would go to Roles, and then you would add no cube, and then you'd say assign user no cube user, right? So all I did was just use the add button here to add the user. Then I went to users and I added this no cube user, and I associated it with authenticated as well as no cube, because no cube is the role that I'm going to use. That's our dummy role. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to open Schema Workbench, and I'm going to create a new one. File, new, or actually what we're going to do is open one, right? So we're going to just use the steel wheels as our one where that we're going to add all of our stuff to, okay? And I've got some red guys here. Cube steel wheels is invalid. Okay, so we're going to make sure our connection is good to go. We got test. It's okay. It should be up and ready to go. Let's see. Table field must be empty. Okay, just interesting. Okay, so we got rid of that. No big deal. No big deal. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to add the role. We're going to add the role, and you would simply go to the schema node, because what it's actually doing is writing XML underneath, and we're going to add the role to the cube. And the new cube is going to be called no cube, right? So now it's defined inside of the cube. And now notice if you put a little space or something, you don't type it right, it's not going to line up, it's not going to map to what's in Pentaho. Okay, so we're going to right click and we're going to add schema grant. So this determines whether somebody actually is going to be able to access the entire schema. Okay, and we're going to say none here. Okay, and what this will do is bring up a big ugly message. Unfortunately, there's no pretty way to do this. When someone has access to nothing, you'll see that they can still see the demo. Pardon me, they'll still be able to see the schema even if they don't have access to it. Okay, so we're going to go to File, Save As, and I'm just going to go ahead and save it in my documents, and I'm going to call it one demo. Okay, so I can find it easier later. And I'm just putting that in my documents. And I'm going to change the name here. I just clicked on the schema. And now I'm going to put in the name. I'll just put one demo so it shows up in my list. Easy. Okay? And also notice something kind of weird about this is like if you change something when you're clicked inside of a field and then you click out of it, you have to click out of it in order for it to write that XML. So if I put steel wheels and then I go and I publish this, it's not going to recognize that change until I click into another part outside of the field in some way. It's kind of a funky thing that'll mess you up sometimes if you just made a change but you didn't click outside the field. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and publish this guy, and
we say yes, and we're going to say OK, and we're just going to put it. Now I've already navigated to the steel wheels / analysis, right? And I'm going to call it one demo steel wheels, okay? Just so I don't overwrite any old thing. And it says publish successful. Okay, so we have something that says no access, right? None. Now, Joe is our administrator, so we want to go and make sure that Joe can still see it. Okay? So the way in which we would do this is, you know, if you're an Enterprise Edition user, you would see this. You could use Analyzer Report, or you could use the Analysis View. Okay? So it's a little bit in this, but I'll kind of show both. And let me scroll down here. Okay, so there it is. It's already appearing, so we go to OK. And there you go. We're obviously at full access because Joe is in the admin role and is able to do whatever he wants, right? So Joe can still see everything. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go File and log out. And then we're going to log in with my
No Cube user, and you know, I just left it password. Okay, log in. I'm just gonna, as this thing loads, I'm just gonna move. I just have some client stuff on there. So when that's done loading, I will bring it back. Just taking a moment. Okay, there we go. Great. Okay, so everything is collapsed for the most part, and that's what I wanted, just so everything's kosher. So I'll put it back. So now what we're going to do in this round, I'll use the analysis view. Okay. Now. Okay, so basically it's saying this page cannot be accessed directly, it must be a link from other pages. So you'll notice that it's still showing it down in the drop down, but isn't giving me the ability to access it. So it's not a very sexy, if you will, way of saying, hey, you don't have access. Right? It's even uglier when you do the analyzer report. And then we say we want this demo, right? And it just gives you this, unable to find a cube. And when in fact I blocked it on the schema level, right? Okay. So that's but the bottom line is you're able to restrict people, and if you have multiple cubes, and you won't receive any of these errors if the person has access to at least one cube in your schema. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do, so we have none, and the funny thing is like Mondrian security kind of works a little bit differently than it does maybe than you would typically think. Like you would think at the top level, if there's no security, that's it, right? Well, that's not really how Mondrian cubes work. So because for example, if I go down here and I add a cube, and there's only one cube in this schema, right? And I say access to all. And notice how the schema workbench is saying, hey, there's another cube here, and that's the cube there. You'll see that I have the, I'll be able to select this. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this. And notice that you can't just drag it to your local. You have to publish it in this case. Some solution files you can, in fact, do that. But anyway, just to stick to the point, you can, in fact, or you have to publish these things. So I publish it, and I'm just going to overwrite my old one. Okay, and I say publish. Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, I think I have to click out. I think that happens sometimes. Or I'm accessing the cube and it's not allowing me to get out of that. We'll see. Publish. Might not allow me to overwrite it if the system's using the file. We'll see. Okay, published successful. Okay, I think what the deal was there is it doesn't like it when you edit a field and sometimes your cursor's still in there for some reason. So anyway, we just changed this. So let's go back to Pentaho, and we'll go File, New, Analysis View, and it says Demo Steel Wheels, right? And you'll see now it shows everything. So did you see that? On the top level it said no. But the funny thing is, at the bottom level say yes, it will in fact show you what it is you're looking for. So that's something to keep in mind when you're building these things. Okay? So now what we're going to do is further modify our lovely schema here. And we're going to use, so we've already used the cube grant. Now what we're going to do is do a dimension, and we're going to say add dimension grant, right? And let's say we don't want a certain part of the business to see our customer list, or you're having maybe a customer actually use your data, right? You don't want them to see all of your customers. So what you can do is say, no, you can't see my customers. Just put it right underneath the cube grant. None. Okay, and make sure you just click out just to make sure that it writes to the XML when you leave the field. So we're just going to go ahead and publish this again. And you say yes. So you say OK. It's taking a very long time for being local. Might be because I'm recording the video. And then publish. Publish successful. Great. Okay, now let's go to here. And this time I'll do it in the analyzer report. And then we'll say OK. And you'll see that customers are no longer here for this role. The whole entire role has been blocked. So now if we go to File, New, Analysis View, which is basically JPivot for all you Community Edition people out there, you click OK. And you can see that there is no customer dimension that I have access to, but I'm still able to drill down on anything else I'd like to see. Okay? Now what we're going to go over is a hierarchy grant. A hierarchy grant. So this is useful sometimes if you only want people to see certain data within a hierarchy. And the example I use is markets. So let's go back to our schema workbench. Right click, go to Add Hierarchy Grant. And what we're going to say here, now this isn't necessarily intuitive the first time you do it. You have to say custom. You basically have all, none, or custom for your hierarchy. We're going to say custom because we're going to say we only want you to see a certain part of our hierarchy. It's not an all or nothing thing, right? So we're going to use the markets as an example. And we're going to say the top level is the we're going to say is country, right? So it makes sense that we have territory would be on top, which is probably parts of the world. Then we have countries, which are underneath those territories. We have states or provinces, which are underneath that. And we have city. And let's say we only want the users in the no cube role to only see country. Okay, at the highest level, they can only see that. Okay, and then at the bottom level, they can only see state province. Okay. Now what you would do is make sure you're clicked out of it so it's written, and so now we're basically slicing the bottom and the top off. They can't see city and they can't see territory. Okay, so we're going to go File, Publish. Yeah, I got to save it first. And you say OK. Oh, by the way, make sure you know your published password. I don't know if I went over that. Make sure you know your published password. Make sure you have your user and password. And I'm not sure if I went over this. Okay, I'm probably not the best video guy in the world, but I don't know if I told you have to have your connection set up first. I'll go over that after I'm done with this. And then you're going to go publish. Okay. Alright, so now let's go check it on the server here. And we're going to go File, New, Analysis View. Actually, we'll do both Analyzer and Analysis View. File, New. I have a particular client in mind who is using Analysis View. That's actually what I've created this for, but I thought I'd share it with all of you. So we're going to use the demo 1. Ooh, looks like I may have made a mistake. Let's see what it says when I do new Analyzer report. It looks like it's blocking me altogether. Okay, but here it seems to be working. So it shows only country and state. Okay. Oops, there was an error. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look again at what we got here. So does this make sense? The top level is the country, and the bottom level is the state. Look at customers. We don't want to see any customers. So we've got custom, markets, country, state, province. Interesting. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video real quick. I'm going to go back and see what's going on. Hold on one second.